I am peace. I begin to enjoy knowing myself in this way. I had forgotten the sweetness of my own nature. I had grown accustomed to feeling and seeing all the rough and raw edges of my personality. And so I had forgotten to appreciate myself, and definitely I had lost all love for myself. In fact, I had become a stranger to myself. And now I know I am peace. I am light. And I become a friend for myself. Looking at myself peacefully, I begin to appreciate the beauty of the inner being. In my original state, I am filled with truth, with beauty. I can see goodness within myself, and now my appreciation of my own value grows. I know that I, as an individual, am unique. I begin to love myself. And in this awareness of my eternal identity, loving myself, I can let go of the bondages and chains of guilt from the past. Now I can be free. Able to learn from the past and yet forget. I can forgive myself. And so the burden of sorrow and guilt is removed. And I enjoy the beauty of loving myself. and our link together is the link of love.
Om Shanti. Good evening, sisters and brothers. It's a great pleasure for us here today in Harmony House in Kuwait to introduce our speaker for today, who is going to talk to us about emotional freedom. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested in because it's going to liberate ourselves from negative emotions as well as transform our lives. Our speaker today is Sister Margaret Barron, who has been studying Raj Yoga in Meditation Center for 28 years, which has supported change in all areas of her life. She has practical interest in how transformative thinking and personal practice work together to make spirituality practical for everyday living. She has a degree in adult education and training, and she works as empowered living consultant. She supports teachers and women in how to improve their lives. Sister Margaret will guide us today to a roadmap for who are stressed out, worried, and helping to free and manage to get positive results. So let's welcome Sister Margaret, and the mic is yours.
Thank you. Can everyone hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Go ahead. Good.
Thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. There's a lot of light coming in at the moment. It's suddenly become very bright here in the UK. So let's see how we go with that. So it's a topic that's dear to my heart and probably to many many others. And I think there isn't emotional freedom without a journey. You know, we wish we could just kind of wake up one morning and be totally free, but I do believe there's a journey to be experienced, and you know, it's so worth taking that journey. You know, we all look forward to the destination, but the journey is well worth traveling, because we learn so much about ourselves on that journey, and we befriend others who are on that journey, and there can be some very deep, rich exchanges for those who partake into this journey. And so maybe I was seeing that, you know, there's steps within steps of this subject, but maybe before you can even think about emotional freedom, which is like, you know, most amazing thought, that when we would become totally emotionally free. But I think maybe the first step is emotional honesty. So kind of getting a grasp, which is a little bit what we're going to look at today, getting a grasp on, you know, what is really going on, what's really going on. And then I think that after the emotional honesty, there's a kind of in-between step, which is probably emotional detox, you know, the kind of letting go of what's going on that isn't useful, and that is the ongoing journey that will ultimately lead to emotional freedom. So emotional honesty and emotional detoxing will be a continuous journey until ultimately there is freedom. So I came across this study 28 years ago, almost to the day. I think maybe it was the 18th of August, 28 years ago. And I would say now, looking back, without putting myself down, that probably emotionally I was a wreck, but I was functional. I was functioning in life. I was very much, I could hold down a job, and, you know, on the outside, everything looked okay, but my heart was shattered, I think, shattered in pieces. And it probably started as a child and continued being shattered until I came across these teachings that really helped me to start putting the pieces together. And I guess ultimately I would be looking for maybe a golden heart. That would be the one that was expressing the emotional freedom. So in order to be free, there has to be something kind of value in there. So what I thought I would do today is to actually take the word freedom and use it as an acronym. And you yourself, you may take these letters and they may be something different from you. So it's also, maybe there'll be some of them the same, but afterward you can also think, well, that letter would be something different for me in my journey towards emotional freedom. So I'm only going to share from my own experience of the journey. And I have a few slides that maybe help. And one of the slides, it became clear to me over a period of time of what was going on inside me, and it took a lot of honesty to really see what was going on. And it's an ongoing journey. It's not finished. I'm you know, much further ahead than 28 years ago for sure. Like it's like night and day, but there's still a journey to go to be completely free. So I'm hoping what I share today, you know, encourages you to, you know, get on the journey really, if you're not, or to maybe go deeper into it, because I think the rewards are really rich when we do. So if I was going to take the F, the first for freedom, I would take it as the word free to kind of set the scene really. And I was just thinking about earlier on today, you know, just if that feeling that might come if all the thoughts about people that goes around in our head just melted away. So all those thoughts just melted away. So you can sort of imagine this. So all these thoughts about other people just were not operating. And then all the thoughts to do with what I feel or think I should be doing. So basically the to-do list, all of those thoughts just stopped. And then all the thoughts to do with my past. You know, I was so in the moment and my past was not impacting at all. And I wasn't concerned about the future at all. I just had that kind of faith and trust in whatever was going to come would be fine. I didn't have any thoughts about the future. And I was thinking that what a feeling that would be if all those thoughts were not operating. And my conclusion, well, I had sort of a feeling of it really, that my conclusion is all of us would feel so peaceful and so content. And to me, that's the kind of natural feeling of our being. So when we talk about human being, you know, the being part is the natural state of being would be that we just feel peaceful and content. And as that meditation at the beginning was saying, if you did get a chance to listen to that, was, you know, just you'd have that natural feeling of love. You'll be self-respecting, and that feeling of valuing yourself. I don't know so much loving yourself, but you would value yourself, and with that value there'd be a sense of your specialness and your uniqueness. You know, it would be such a beautiful feeling. And so all of these things help add up to, you know, the emotional freedom. And it's all those other things that kind of cloud our consciousness, cloud us, that kind of make us feel trapped, you know. And, you know, some days we do feel so trapped in just even the overwhelming to-do list. We feel kind of trapped in it. And yet if we just let go of those thoughts and just start going, you know, usually it's never as bad as we think it's going to be, or we, you know. So yeah, and I've noticed, you know, if I'm in the right inner feeling, then it doesn't really matter what I do, you know, whether it's sweeping the yard or cleaning a drain or whatever it is, clearing a cupboard, it doesn't, or writing a letter or whatever it is, doesn't really matter if inside I'm feeling okay. But if, you know, if I'm not feeling okay inside, if I've got some emotional upheaval going on, then even, you know, even the slightest thing, extra thing that, you know, I'm asked to do, or someone, you know, wants me to do, then it'll be like a big burden, you know. So it's really not about the external. It's so much this journey of self-discovery. It's like completely about the internal. And, you know, sooner or later we wake up to that, and then we fall asleep again. And then maybe we go through some things and we wake up to it again. Hang on, it's about me. And then we fall asleep again. And, you know, so, you know, emotional freedom is really when you're so awake to, you know, what is going on inside, and you can manage it all. You know, you're not so burdened by it. So, you know, that kind of sets the scene a little bit, that, you know, what is freedom? I think freedom is emotional freedom is when I can just be in those beautiful feelings of feeling peaceful and loving and joyous, no matter what is going on externally. And I feel for myself that this is kind of victory or success, is when even the external seems kind of crazy or chaotic or you know, adverse, not how maybe I would wish it to be, and yet I'm totally okay inside. I'm totally okay inside. And that is a beautiful feeling. You're not being influenced by the situation or the people in the situation. You're not worried about it, but you just are okay, and your responses become quite natural towards it. You kind of know, what you have to do. You know what would be the right way of being in that situation that would be the most beneficial for you and for everyone else. So when we're in emotional freedom state, we're looking for win-wins all the time. We're not thinking about just me benefiting. So that would be my F. And my R, I think it has to be responsibility for my internal world. And I haven't always taken responsibility. You know, I think we all have fallen into the blame game and made someone else responsible for what is going on for me. Maybe I'm reacting to their behavior, something that they said. Maybe they haven't met my expectations, and therefore, you know, I'm blaming them for what I'm experiencing. But, you know, this isn't true at all. And I think, you know, when I can start to take responsibility, it brings great reward. And I think it's highly it takes courage and it's highly challenging to take responsibility. But when I start to take responsibility for what I'm creating in my thoughts and feelings, my attitudes, my perception, when I take responsibility for that, then I get also the highest reward. So in a way, I guess we're moving to the higher level of responsibility that I take, the greater the reward. So ultimately, if really I got a grip on it and took 100% responsibility for what is going on inside me, what I'm creating and what I have created in the past that I'm now experiencing the result of that, then I also get high reward. And I remember this slogan that I came across when I was about 16 years of age. And my family had gone to it was like a holiday place. It was a public school in England, which is like a private school. And they had rented out the place to some families from the area that I was living. And so we all went down then and had a holiday there. And I remember on the mantelpiece, above the mantelpiece, where in the room that my parents were in, there was this slogan, and it was like it really struck me. And I used that slogan for so many years. And the slogan said, "Give to the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. Give to the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you." And it's taken me quite a long time to work out what the best is. I think when I was in my later teenage years, early 20s, I thought it was kind of like doing stuff. And now I realize it's really like the state of being. Can I be my best? And that has its own reward and return. So I guess it's all about learning to be with whatever is going on, and ultimately to be with my feelings. And I think this is the point where I'm going to introduce the first slide. So just a moment while I get it up for you. So I hope everyone can see that. I'm just going to put it into trying to get into slide. Just move that. Okay, so here is the first slide, and actually I've put the image on the fly. It had a image of a flower, and again, that's a very beautiful image because a flower kind of opens, doesn't it? It kind of blossoms. It starts maybe tight, but eventually it starts to open. And maybe the more we become free, actually, the more we're becoming open and revealing the beauty. But I put the image of a butterfly because I think the transformation when you start really working with those inner feelings, the transformation can be so different from how you were before. It's like the difference of the caterpillar to a butterfly. It's like two different creatures, and I feel when we start to make effort to change what's going on inside us, it can bring enormous change. And the butterfly is a lovely image of freedom. So I've put together this. The next slide is I put together this little process to share with you, and this is kind of really sits under this R for responsibility, and it includes some of the other letters. So I will start, and hopefully it will all make sense as by the time we finish the talk. So in this journey of emotional freedom, as I said, then the first step is kind of emotional honesty, and then emotional detoxing, and ultimately these two will keep rolling until ultimately you feel free. So I started with a little image of the self, and we're describing here something that you can't see. So when we talk about human being, you can see the human being. You can see, if you can see me on the screen, you can see the body. You can see the body that I'm in, but the actual being, it's like consciousness. It's like your conscience, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings. Although you can see it through someone's face, like if someone's happy, you know they're happy. You see it in their smile, the glow of their face, and the sparkle in their eyes. So you know that they're happy, but you can't, it's not tangible. You can't catch happiness. And the same thing when someone's sad, they may try and hide it, but you can feel it. You can feel it. I mean, there's some people that I know who, they spend a lot of time in silence, but you can feel what's going on in there. So this image is to try and pick something you can't see, but it's like energy. It's like we're energy, and we inhabit this body. And on a good day, we have these beautiful feelings of peace, love, and joy. As I mentioned, if all these other thoughts were not there, this is what our predominant feeling would be, and this is what we call the original state, the natural state. Actually, more than original, just this is our natural state. And I guess the nearest we see is children. Children just, when the children they're just in this, from moment to moment, and this is our natural state. But as we become adults, we kind of lose touch with these feelings in a natural way, because of all the situations we've been through, the traumas we've been through, the uncomfortable things that have happened to us, the relationship games that we got involved in, and so this can be not always our feeling. But in meditation, we're aiming to get a sense of this again. And part of that is to connect with the supreme source, whatever that means to you. But for me, it would be a source that is always peaceful, always loving, always full of joy, and connecting with that to empower these qualities that are natural in me. And so when we connect, then it's like you start getting the good stuff. Really, you start to feel it's almost like you start to feel empowered. I guess that's the ultimate feeling. And in a way, this is what we're aiming for in meditation, is to start to get a sense of our original state, this natural state that is the state of everyone on the planet, although it can be so hidden now, so hidden. And when we do that, we start to feel secure. We start to feel secure. And when we feel secure, we start to respect ourselves. And when we start to respect ourselves, and the peace and the love and the joy, they start to flow more naturally. And that's what we're trying to work with, every time we have a chance to come back into this, to get a sense of it again. And then you can lose it again, and then you come back and you get a sense of it again. It's like that. And then we have, so if we were in this all the time, it would be wonderful, just wonderful, wouldn't it? Just feeling secure. And ultimately, his life, and we're feeling secure, and so whatever happens in life, we're responding with calmness, or benevolence, kindness, humor, lightness. This is really how life's meant to be, but it's got so complicated. And of course, then we have these and then we have these things called triggers. And what I mean by triggers is, that person does that thing again, and it brings up something in me, and it starts to bring up feelings in me. So it could be a person, it could be a situation. Friday night is raining and you get a puncture in your car and it's like, oh, you know, these feelings. So it brings up potentially like a sadness in us, or the sadness is, I wish it wasn't like this. It shouldn't be like this. And bad, I'm using rhyming words, obviously. So bad is when I don't feel good about myself, don't feel worthy, I feel inferior, low self-esteem, these sort of feelings, not nice. And then, of course, if either two of those, then we can start to feel mad, like angry. And if you've ever watched your feelings, that often you might get irritated, you might get angry. But once that feeling starts to subside, usually under that you'll feel a not feeling good about yourself. And even under that, there's usually a sadness, and that sadness is connected to some old hurt, some maybe wound. We could call it a wound that's in your being. It's like in your subconscious. And so this trigger has hit those feelings, and now you're feeling all disturbed. And what I've been working on for quite a long time now, and this became clear over time. It wasn't all clear at the beginning, but this became clearer over time, that this is not the problem. You know, when something happens and we get feelings, I don't see it as a big problem. I see what we do with the feelings is the big problem. But of course, you know, if we can respond to life from the peace, love, and joy, fantastic. That's you know, that's great. You know, that shows our progress. That shows that we're you know, coming from a deeper space. But if something happens and we get feelings, that's okay too. In my book, it's what you do with those feelings that could possibly become the problem. And, you know, often when feelings comes up, who wants to feel these uncomfortable feelings? You know, raise your hand. Do you want to feel these uncomfortable feelings? I think most of us, no, we don't. And so what happens is the mind starts to go into a spin with these feelings. And of course, as soon as the mind gets engaged, it's like we start connecting with the what triggered these feelings, and we start to ask questions like, you know, why did they say that thing? You know, that's really upset me. Or, you know, what's this all about? Where's this all going to lead? You know, what's going to happen next? When is that person going to leave? I mean, if they only left the job, my life would be so nice, you know. So we start asking all these questions. Who's to blame? Which is the big one in our world. Who's to blame? Who's to blame for all this? And where's this all going to lead to? Or where am I going to go? Or how am I going to cope with all this? So our mind starts spinning with these questions. It might not be crystallized into a question, but behind what the mind's doing, there's usually some kind of disturbance. And if you go deeper, it's usually a question. And this is all about the trigger. So our mind starts to become consumed about what that person said or what that person did, or the situation we're uncomfortable. We get absolutely all our thoughts are now about the trigger. And the sad, bad, mad is left behind. And now we've put all our angst onto our frustration, our upset, onto the trigger, that person. They're responsible for what I'm feeling. Before they came in the room, I was absolutely fine. And now I feel all disturbed. Just their very presence disturbs me. It must be them. So, you know, in a way, the ego plays all these games and makes the trigger responsible for what I'm feeling. But the very nature is it's a trigger. It's a trigger. It's not the cause. What we call this is projection. So projection is instead of owning my feelings, I've now projected them onto someone or something else, and I'm disturbed, and I'm making someone or something else responsible for that disturbance. And this can go on for years, decades. We all, I think, have something from our past that we think someone else was responsible for, making us feel a certain way. And of course, you know, I've had traumas in my life, and I think for a long time I thought it was about the other person. You know, it's taken some of them only quite recently, I have to be honest and say, to actually take back the energy, own it. But when you do, it's part of your healing process. And then the other thing that we do, which we've all become experts in, is numbing our feelings. Because, you know, to feel these feelings, who wants to? So we've learned our own beautiful technique to numb. And some of us do it with food. That's why they call it comfort food. So we do it with food. You know, we might have that piece of cake just to stop our mind thinking about that thing. And while we're having that experience, it goes to the back of our mind. You know, we might drink. It might be something really little, like I'm just going to have a cup of tea, but it might be something more. You know, we drown our sorrows. We call it drowning. We numb them. Films, TV, we just distract ourselves, because while the time that film's running, we're so engrossed in the film, we're not feeling our feelings. Sleep, I think many of us done this, like, I'm just fed up with today, I'm just going to bed. I think we've all used this one at some point and the thing is, often you don't go straight to sleep, you're just tossing and turning with the problem. Shopping, whether it's to the shops, not so easy nowadays with lockdown, but still online. I think the post offices around the world are really busy at the moment. All the couriers services are making a fortune as we survive lockdown with our shopping. And this is called suppression. So what I'm going to say here is, when a trigger comes and these feelings come up, I'm not so worried about that, because I feel that can be transformed, healed. But when we're in projection, or we're suppressing, we're numbing, that's the real problem. So we have to start learning about, when are we eating and drinking because there is a need for the body to sustain the body, and when we're doing it to numb. And all these things that we do, we all have our own ways of doing it. And of course, if we phone a friend, we'll be back in projection, because they're only going to have to say, we might phone a friend with a kind of idea like, I'm just going to talk to someone, and, you know, they'll make me laugh and I'll get over these feelings. But as soon as they ask you, you know, how are you, you're probably going to relate about the trigger. And so you'll be back talking about the projection again. So, as I said, I'm not so worried about the feelings, because all this projection and suppression actually makes us more and more insecure, because we're trying to use something that isn't true to try and satisfy ourselves, and it will never satisfy. It's almost like there's an internal gap, and there's no food that will fill that internal gap. There's no movie that will fill that internal gap. You know, it's in our beingness where the gap is. But I really truly feel, and my experience is, that we can heal these feelings. And I've had quite a few experience about several years ago. Someone came back into my life I hadn't seen for 30 years. And, you know, at first it was, wow, this is kind of really great. And then, you know, a few things happen, and all the feelings of 30 years ago that I'd suppressed, oh my gosh, the sad, bad and mad was jumping around like you would not believe. But luckily I'd already had quite a few years of being involved in a kind of spiritual understanding. And so I you know, I mean, the projection and the suppression was going on a bit, but I really wanted to release and heal these feelings. So I learned a lot during that time. And it takes courage and honesty that when something gets triggered, if you're not responding from your secure place of peace, love, and joy, and another kind of feeling comes up, and sad, bad, and mad is the kind of summary of it, to be honest, to be courageous and honest about it, to be able to say, this is my feeling. Because when you actually own your feelings, that will stop you projecting and at least help you stop suppressing. Not easy to stop either of these because they've become, deep habits. And so little by little, we're kind of working with this new territory. But I really feel that if we can accept the trigger, so accept that person as they are, accept the situation and not get consumed by it, then it gives us a chance. And so I would say from now to the end of my life, I'm going to be working with acceptance and building it up, higher levels of acceptance. And I fail probably every day, but I keep building up. No, Margaret, you've got to accept. And then, the healing, these feelings, we can bring them back into this secure place and let them be healed in that relationship with the supreme source of all goodness. And this has been my personal experience of learning to be with the feelings and letting them release, letting them heal. And I feel that in a way the trigger is beautiful because it only reveals what is still left to be healed, if I can see it like that. However painful it is, what's triggered, it is what's in me and it can be healed. So, this is the kind of model that I've been working with for quite a few years now. And then I'm just going to go on to another slide that helps summarize it in a very different way, is that, because the feelings, where do they start? Often they can start in your gut. Something happens and you get this gut feeling and you feel terrible. And then if you can watch it, if you can feel it, if you can witness it, you will start to see it move, and probably it will go around your heart, your physical heart, your, the chakra there, you'll feel it around your heart. And then you just have to learn to tolerate it, to be with it, just be with the feeling and watch it, be curious about it, and try and bring your mind back from thinking it's about the person, situation, and use your mind to be the observer of what's going on, and then just allow it to happen. And what I've noticed is it kind of moves up around my heart, and then from there it moves up into my throat, and my throat can get very painful, as if I'm going to cry. And it almost feels like I'm going to cry, but I don't cry. And sometimes if you cry, fine, but it's better to try not to cry, because it's about releasing it in an energetic way rather than through tears. And then the energy will go up into your head, and you might even feel like your head's going to explode a bit, and then suddenly it will lift. You'll release it. And my personal experience is that after you release it, you suddenly feel very calm. It's almost like, wow. And later, you'll feel quite euphoric, because this lump of energy that was blocking you experiencing your joy and your peace and your contentment has now been released. And in some ways, the greater the trigger, the greater the release, the better you're going to feel afterwards. But we have not been trained at school to do this. We have not been trained to be with our feelings. So it's like a new education. It's new education, but it only really helps when you know that your natural nature is peace, love, and joy. And when you release these feelings, you'll come closer to your natural state. You're just releasing something that's kind of blocking your natural state. So I'm now going to come out of the PowerPoint. So I hope that was helpful, and welcome to ask me questions in a minute. So in a way, that was my taking responsibility, but it also leads into many of the others, which was empowerment. So the more we can actually be in our self-respect of our original state, our true state of being, and start to feel secure and self-respecting, then these beautiful feelings of peace and love start to emerge. But also, it is a state of empowerment when you can tolerate a feeling when it comes up, when the feeling gets triggered, and you can hold it without letting it blur out as a projection or a suppression. When you can hold it, take the courage and hold it, and then start to work and release it, it also is empowerment. To see that as empowerment as well. And of course, we're always working. So that would be my E. Then the next E would be, the more we can link into that beingness about ourselves that is eternal. So these original qualities, but also that, I mean, how do you describe something that is invisible? It's like that inner presence that was with you when you were 7 and was present when you were 14 and 21 and is still present now. It's that part of you that knows your whole trajectory, knows your journey, that part of you that's present right now, listening and seeing what's going on in this talk, that presence that's using the body, that is eternal. Your presence is eternal. It's like there's an invisible presence that's inside you that's kind of noticing everything that's going on in the world. So the more we can understand that presence and not just get so caught up in life, so enjoy life, that's no problem, but to kind of come from that inner presence, be aware of that. So yes, we have to go out to do things, we have to be engaged in life, but the more I can also create a balance of coming back in, experiencing that presence. You can call it the soul, the spirit, but I quite like presence because it's that presence is always there. It's like an invisible presence that's, behind your eyes. It's like the one that's seeing, the one that's hearing. It's invisible, but it's always there. And so that to link into that which is eternal, and of course I would say that source, that supreme source is eternal, stable, always stable in those beautiful qualities. And therefore I'm starting to link into that which is eternal, whereas the world, we can see it's ever changing. It's like no minute is the same. It's unpredictable. It's surprising. I think none of us could understand that we would be in this lockdown. So we don't know the next moment. And I think no one knows. People may prophesize, but I don't think anyone really knows exactly. Might have ideas, but doesn't really know how it's all going to pan out. And so the more we can have a link to that which is eternal as we maneuver ourselves and manage ourselves in the world that's ever changing, we're going to be so much better off. But if our self-respect, which isn't really self-respect, if our ego, should we say, opposite of self-respect, which is the ego is always insecure, starts latching on to people and things and, that are always changing, even the loveliest human being, they have their moments when then they're going to experience their sad, bad and mad, or they're, you expect them to be there for you and they can't because they have got other commitments. So it's an ever-changing world. And so to find something that stabilizes me so that I can manage this ever-changing world is really what, it's all about. And the D for me would be determination. And in the word determination is the word terminate. And so, what am I prepared to let go of in order to move towards emotional freedom? So for me, you may be different, but what am I going to let go of that will help me accept more? And I've been working through lockdown. I've been tested so many times, but I am working on raising my level of acceptance. So I guess the ultimate aim is 100% acceptance, but that's high, isn't it? 0 expectations. So I haven't got 0 expectations yet, but I'm working on letting it go. It's not important. Don't worry about it. Let it go. Don't expect anything of anyone. And of course, as soon as you drop your expectations, it's easier to accept. So that would be, for me, the thing that I'm determined to work on continuously, rest of my life. Less expectations, more acceptance. And, you know, if you think about for yourself, what one thing that you could let go of that would really change a lot in your life. And that is, you know, within determination, there's something that has to go. Terminate. Something's got end. It's got termination in it, within that word. So to move forward, something has to go. To gain, you have to let go of something. And my O would be, I think, open to newness, to enjoy a new me. And I think a lot of people have been talking about lockdown, to come out of lockdown with the new you. And I think that is to use this time to have that self-exploration, and really, how would I like to be in the world? You know, how would I like to come out? And what would be the real me? You know, if I'm looking at that self-respecting me, what would that look like if I totally respected myself, if I totally valued myself, if I really saw myself as so special, so unique, I never compared myself with anyone ever again, what would it look like? You know? Because in a way, you either respect yourself, you value your uniqueness and your specialness, or you'll end up in the comparison game. There's no kind of gray area. You're either in your self-respect, or your ego will start to compare with others. And that comparison will either put you a little bit higher, a little bit better, or lower, not as good as. So ego doesn't care what you feel, as long as it survives, as long as it's creating something. So I guess the wise one starts building up their self-respect. And so that would be open to discover the, you know, bring out the real me. And I wrote a poem years ago, before I came across this knowledge. And it's such a short poem that I'm going to share it with you, because I remember it because it's so short. And it was called Destiny. And I wrote this actually probably at quite a low point in the 1980s. And it said, it goes like this: Destiny. Oh, to find the real me, that is to be my destiny. Through human haze and earthly fog, to find that place that's close to God. Oh, to reveal the best in me, that is my true destiny. And that is still going on. That's still going on. But I wrote that poem when I really knew nothing about this journey. But there must have been some kind of deep thing in my subconscious that really wanted to, you know, give to the world the best I have, really. And so my M would be, let the magic begin, you know, because imagine when we're coming from that true state of self, that natural state of self, we feel empowered, we're linked into that which is eternal and stable, we're starting to move through the world, and even if something gets triggered in ourselves, we know, wow, we can heal this. Let the magic begin, really. You know, we don't need to suffer. Just because we have feelings, we don't need to suffer. But when we project and when we suppress, that's the suffering. So we can learn to be with our feelings, be okay with our feelings, heal our feelings. That's fine. You know, but underneath that feeling, there's something amazing that wants to express itself. But while we're projecting and while we're suppressing, we'll start more and more and more insecure, more and more insecure. So in a way, that's a little summary of my my journey to emotional freedom. I'm on the journey. I got a way to go. I'm learning to manage my feelings so much better than before. Some days I get caught out, and I know I still go into the blame game, but not for long. I usually think, come on, you know, they're not responsible for what you're feeling. Get a grip. And yeah, that's the kind of journey that I've been on for quite a while now. And I love sharing it because it reminds me too that this is really important work. And I feel that the more of us that do that inner work to heal our feelings is also healing the planet. So although it seems like you're just doing it for yourself because you want to feel better, that energy that you release, that old energy that you release, and as you move into that, your own natural, unique, special beauty of your own beingness, that is healing the planet. So it's a kind of amazing work that as we heal the world. So I think it's time for a meditation, and then after the meditation, then there's time for questions. So I'll do a little meditation for you to join in. So sit comfortably. Just take a couple of breaths in and out. And just find your own natural rhythm. And just as you observe your breath coming in and going out, the observation of your breath brings you into the present moment. And imagine at the level of your eyes, inside your skull, there's a circle of light. So at the level of your eyes, going around the inside of your skull, there's a circle of light. And all of the world is on the other side of that circle. All the people you know, all the situations, your to-do list, your past, everything is on the other side of that circle. And if you bring your attention to the center of that circle, there's a still point. Right in the center of that circle is a still point. And as you focus your attention on that still point, you will start to experience your own natural peace. This peace is always there. It has always been there, and it will always be there. just that so often our focus is outside the circle. But as I bring my attention to that center point inside that circle, I naturally start to experience my own peace. And the more I can experience my own peace, I start to value myself as a peaceful being. Value myself as a peaceful being. I am unique and special, and I have my own part to play in this world. I have my own best to express. And as I start to value myself as that peaceful being, love starts to emerge. I start to have love for myself as this unique person, this unique being that's here to express my best, to express my happiness in the world. Every so often, I just come back to that center point. Recenter myself as that peaceful being. And as I become more experienced, I'll be able to link to that source that's forever peaceful. And this will make me feel empowered, strong, stable. And then as I come back into expression in the world, I come back with something valuable. I feel valuable, and I know I have something valuable to share. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. There's a minor clarification that this seminar is co-organized by Bahrain Meditation Center and the Harmony Center here in Kuwait. Okay, and thanks, Margaret. You did a great job actually, because the journey was a remarkable journey. On that you led us to peace, as you said, love and joy. Your slides were in a great help, though. And thanks for sharing your experience dealing with the emotional things that you went through your life. Okay, we have a couple of questions here. The first one is how to apply what you said in our daily life. This is the first question. So kindly, can you explain it?
Well, I think you'll notice that you will be put in situations which probably trigger you. If you hadn't noticed already, just look around. So you'll either have married the person who triggers you, given birth to the people who trigger you, have siblings who trigger you, parents who trigger you, but also work colleagues. And I think this is important to understand. And in a way, I remember when I lived in America and I used to go shopping. I used to work for millionaires and I used to go shopping, and we were the same size. So often she would try on the clothes and then she'd get me to try on the clothes so that she could see what it looked like. So I got to try on some amazing clothes for about, a minute. And but I noticed that when there's something like a really well-made jacket, shall we say, it does feel amazing. I can see why people want that, because it just does make you feel great. And in a way, our life is like that. Each of our lives is like a well-fitted jacket. And if we can accept that, then we can start doing the inner work. When we're in resistance to some person or some situation, thinking, no, I don't want, this isn't for me, this shouldn't be happening to me, then we put off our learning, we put off our progress. But when we can start to move to, no, there's something in this for me, there's some kind of deep learning, or there's some healing, or this person has come to show me something about myself that needs to change. When I can see it like that, then all of our life becomes part of this process. It's not, we don't compartmentalize our life. Our whole life is about our journey. And, there's some people who come in our life and then they leave our life, and you want them to stay in your life. You would want them to stay in your life forever, but they came for a particular reason, for a particular time, for a particular lesson. And that lesson, maybe it was already learned, or they had to leave for me to learn the lesson of letting go. So, or to understand, that attachment brings sorrow, whatever it was, whatever the lesson is. So all around me, life is for learning. And it's when we see it like that, it can be very beautiful. It can be very highly challenging, because it means it goes back to that responsibility one. I'm responsible for what's in my life, and and
the acceptance, of course.
Acceptance, so as soon as you see, because the opposite of acceptance is resistance. And but the thing is, they always say, whatever you resist persists. And I've seen this so many times in my life, the quicker that you accept, the quicker the game changes. And there was one doctor who I remember driving with him, and he just retired. And I said, what was the main thing that you learned from all these years of being a GP? And he said, I learned that when someone is ill, whatever their state, the moment they accept it, healing happens. He said, it doesn't mean that they're not going to pass on, but healing happens.
Of course.
They start to reconcile with themselves. So really, maybe this game is about self-respect and accepting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There is another question, which is how to see clear where to go, or what should I do to move forward on the right path for her, of course.
Well, each, situations are, we each have to find our own way. But for my own self, I there's been times when, I want to leave a situation. I have to be honest. I think, oh, get me out of here. Can't cope with this anymore. That the feelings can be quite painful because some I've had some traumas, and there's some certain individuals that will keep triggering those traumas because they need to be healed, but it can be quite painful. And so, when that's going on, and it can go on for a long time before you realize it is about you. And, during that time, you can think, oh, get me out of here. Let me jump over the wall and run away, or move to a different place, or whatever, move countries. And I did that. I moved countries twice, but not since I've been on this spiritual journey. But I ran away from situations. And but now I try and stay with it and take, I've got some beautiful friends, really some incredible friends that are very open, and I can discuss things with. And like my best friend's a psychiatrist, which is really helpful. And but I've got some other friends who just, they're sounding boards, and they're good friends because they can mirror back to you and say, okay, but what have you got to learn from that? Or do you think there's some ego operating here? What do you think would be the most self-respecting thing in this situation? And so, these are good friends when they can listen, but they also don't just agree, don't gossip, but they're great sounding boards. And I've got quite a few, actually, and different people for different situations, really. So, but I think mostly it's about staying with something and working it out. And I've got a situation going on now. It's not like I'm free, but I'm working it out. I'm working it out, and I'm taking that support from my own inner world and from that supreme source, and I'm moving. So yeah,
I totally agree with you, because each one has his own personal path, his own destination towards his life.
absolutely.
So I totally agree with you. Another question, actually, and the last one, which is, won't it be good to cry rather than thinking it so? Would it be a release?
Sometimes you can't help it, you cry, but usually from my experiences, when you cry is because it's the ego that's crying. If you can get that one. It's like, oh, poor me, it's still usually crying is usually when you're in the projection. When you're in the projection still, usually the tears come, and that might have to happen. But after the tears have gone, and when that thing, then you still have to do the work. But my own personal experience is, if I can not do the crying, if I can, if in a way, if I can come back from the ego and take responsibility for my feeling, because as soon as I start taking responsibility and say, these are my feelings, but they can be healed, in a way, that is a bit of a death of the ego, because I'm saying this can be healed, whereas the ego thinks, no, but let's continue, let's kind of get more engaged in it, let's dramatize this trigger. So the ego loves the projection, and the ego loves suppression because it stays alive. But as soon as I say, I want to heal these feelings, the ego will try and make you project and try and make you suppress. But if you can have enough courage, and it does take courage, and it takes practice. It takes practice, because once you've done it a few times and you see how it works, then you think, well, I know how it works now. So there's always going to have to be the first time when you sit with your feelings, and they will be painful, maybe physically painful, emotionally painful, mentally painful. But if you sit through them, but from my own experience, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then it started to shift. And it's quite fascinating to be curious about and say, okay, let's watch it move. You're watching energy move, but you've got to be curious about it. Otherwise the ego will want you to stay in projection and suppression, because that's its life. That gives life to it. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all done that. So it's courage. It's courage. But I feel if we get what I call it, if we get triggered, and those feelings come up, that's the work. That is the work. That's the spiritual work. To hold it and not project it and not suppress it. Be with it and release it. Witness it and release it. And you will feel so amazing later. You'll probably be dancing down the street. It's that good a feeling. So it's so worth going through it. But it's like a bit like, I guess they say no gain without pain. But you know, somewhere along the line, I created those feelings. And if I was the one who created them, I don't remember. Some of them may have come when I was a kid. I don't remember. It's all suppressed. But, you know, the trigger is actually a blessing for me, if I can really understand it, because it's helping me be aware of something that has been buried. So it comes up. And it might keep coming up and keep coming up. And so I might have to be around a certain person because they're going to keep pressing that button until, you know, I get the message. And but once I do release that feeling, you know, it's amazing. And you will notice that you will progress. You will start operating differently because you're not carrying around these feelings that are buried inside us. It takes a lot of energy to hold these feelings in, these suppressions, that to hold them takes. So as soon as we release them, we freed up. We're freed up to use that energy for something else.
Yeah,
so it's
amazing.
quite a process, but it's so worth it. So worth
Yeah.
it. I mean, if a trigger comes and you can sail through it with humor and, you know, you're calm, and of course that's the best, isn't it? That shows your progress. And you will get times when you do that, because it can't be always that you probably will go through times when you feel you're doing really well, you feel like you're quite successful, you're managing everything, you're feeling light and easy and joyous, and then you'll probably go through a period where all the feelings start coming up. And that's the pattern that I seem to notice.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so and so both are great. If we can see both are important. And of course, the quicker I accept and the quicker I deal with my feelings, the quicker I move out of it, back into the great feelings again. But not to be scared of our feelings. I think our culture has made us very scared of our feelings. We feel like we won't be able to cope. You will be able to cope. You just sit with them. You will cope. I promise you. I've coped with guilt. I've coped with shame. Some really heavy stuff. You will cope if you just sit there. You will feel like you won't cope, but I promise you'll cope. But actually, when you're projecting and you're suppressing, you are